Hello, everyone. I'm Blaine Gilmer. Welcome to Southeastern 14, daily coverage of SEC sports right here, and it is football season. We are getting closer and closer to those first games. Actually, we are going to have college football this weekend. Vanderbilt has a week 0 game against Hawaii, so we will be off and running this weekend with college football, and that means as we get closer to the season, some of these quarterback battles are getting set around college football and the Southeastern Conference. And this past weekend, Kirby Smart named Carson Beck his starting quarterback for the 2023 season as they head into their opener against UT Martin. Carson Beck is a guy that has been much maligned at times during his career at Georgia. People have figured, why can he not get over the hump, especially with Stetson Bennett there, a guy that Carson Beck was more talented than in terms of his physical talents. That's what many people, thought going into it. But it turned out that Stetson Bennett was quite the special quarterback and ended up doing great things at the University of Georgia. But I wanted to just say that Carson Beck's story is one that should be celebrated in college football today. In an era of NIL and transfer portal and lots of influence peddling with people on the outside of these players' lives, outside of their campus life, that are pushing them to go elsewhere or go play or get that instant gratification. Carson Beck is a guy who has faced adversity and he's handled it like a man, and now he's got the chance to write his own story and pursue history for the University of Georgia. A little bit of background on Carson Beck. In 2018, he was committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. That was coming on the heels of winning a state championship at Mandarin High School. He had just moved into Mandarin High School after going to a smaller school that the program shut down. All he did at Mandarin High School was have to overcome adversity there as well. Beck was a guy who got there and had some sickness that he had to fight, and then the season there was torrential rains and things like that forced him to be on different fields and all this kind of stuff. They got off to a bad record, 1-2 start over there with Mandarin, and then all he does is come down and just lead that team to a state championship, in the end throwing for over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns in his last 2 games in that season, in the semifinals and the finals for Mandarin High School. I mean, just absolutely lighting it up. And then the expectations were ramped up a little bit. The target comes on his back a little bit. He graduated a lot of seniors from that team, and people are really coming after Carson Beck. So the high expectations started there. Didn't have as good of a senior year as he did a junior year. But then, 2020 COVID year rolls around. That's his freshman year at Georgia. And, people are looking, hey, what's going on here? Dwan Mathis is Georgia's quarterback at that point in time. And then he's not able to play. Stetson Bennett comes in. Okay, is it going to be, is JT Daniels going to be ready? Should Georgia turn to this talented freshman Carson Beck and get ready to play? There was, questions about that at time. And then the next year in 2021, JT Daniels is the starter. He goes down. It's UAB week. Carson Beck is the guy that they're trying to hand this job to. They're trying to say, okay, it's your time. And Stetson Bennett just took it from him, just outplayed him in practice that year. And Beck wasn't quite ready for the job at that time. And Stetson Bennett, of course, never looked back. And 2 national titles later, Georgia is now looking for their 3rd in a row. But Stetson Bennett did some things in that locker room and did some things there on that team that Carson Beck learned from. And they could have been very easily after that 2021 season for Carson Beck to say, you know what, I'm going to go look elsewhere. I'm going to go find a place where I can go play immediately. But Beck, against all odds, stood in there and decided, hey, I'm going to compete. I'm going to go in here and try to earn time and things like that. But I think the biggest thing, and Kirby Smart said it in his press conference this weekend, he said the thing that separates programs in college football is how many quality reps you can get your number twos and your number threes during the season and help them to develop. He said that's what separates programs in college football. And Carson Beck just looked at things and said, hey, there's nowhere I'm going to be able to develop better than at Georgia with the reps that he's able to get in the defense he was able to face week in and week out, day in and day out. Because you look at Georgia's defenses over the last 2 years, where else are you going to face that caliber of defense on a daily basis? So Carson Beck took solace in that. He also, former Alabama commit, of course, he'd committed to Alabama back in 2018, as I said, decommitted early 2019. And you look at that Alabama tie, he looked at the Mac Jones story and said, hey, Mac Jones is a guy who waited his time, and then when it came his time, had an unbelievable year and goes in the first round in the 2021 draft after having a huge 2020 season for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So there was a quote from Carson Beck this spring that said, I think every player, when they're young and immature, they're like, oh, I'm going to leave, blah, blah, blah. But never did I think like, hey, I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, I love the University of Georgia. That's why I stayed at this place. So Carson Beck, I'm sure there were times, let's be honest, let's be candid. I'm sure there were times where he talked to advisors, talked to former coaches, talked to family members, and was like, hey, it might be my time to get out, and that's just human nature. It might be time for me to head elsewhere, to find greener pastures, to go get a chance where I can go play. But Carson Beck came to the University of Georgia, and I remember talking to Carson and talking to his coaches during his recruitment when I covered recruiting, and Carson would just tell me how much he loves the University of Georgia and how much he wanted to recruit other guys there, and he was huge in recruiting other guys in that class with him, that class of 2020. So, when it came down to it, Carson Beck was a damn good dog before he even arrived, because he was there and didn't worry about the guys in front of him and things like that, or the guys that Georgia was recruiting behind him, and just kept plugging away and pushing Georgia and working. And now he's earned the starting position for the University of Georgia, a position that is, coveted everywhere else, because now he's got the opportunity to be the guy, the face of this program going forward in the 2023 year, with a plethora of weapons around him. You get two leading receivers from other SEC schools transfer in, and Ra Thomas, the leading receiver at Mississippi State last year, Dominic Lovett, the leading receiver at Missouri last year, that are just absolutely explosive. That adds on top of Brock Bowers and Oscar Delp at the tight end position, on top of Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint, Ladd McConkey, and Dylan Bell, who come back from last year at the wide receiver position for Georgia. And Beck has a rapport with those guys. I mean, he's been throwing to most of them for years now, except the transfers, of course. But he's been throwing with those guys, and there's a trust, there's a belief there. So he's won the starting job now. He's had the opportunity to, look in the past of, hey, should I go elsewhere, things like that, but decided to stay, because the message has always been, and I talked to Denny Thompson, who was his quarterback trainer down in Jacksonville. I asked him, what can people expect from Carson Beck when he gets to Georgia? I asked him that back in 2019, and he said people can expect Carson Beck to be a legend before he ends his time in Athens. Well, remember in 2005 when DJ Shockley had waited his turn behind David Green, and things just really clicked for DJ that year. This is even more impressive. Okay, DJ Shockley goes on to win an SEC championship, things like that. I think this is even more impressive with Carson Beck, because DJ Shockley was getting to play every third or fourth series. He had a little role carved out where he was actually getting some meaningful reps during those years. Carson Beck was a true backup, come in during mop-up duty, things of that nature, and still elected to, hey, I'm going to be there. I'm going to compete. I'm going to learn under Todd Monken. that's another thing as well. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Todd Monken and how much NFL credibility he had there for the University of Georgia, his background there, knowing that, hey, I'm learning from one of the best coordinators around in the game, and being able to, use that knowledge, learn from not only Monken, but learn from Stetson Bennett, learn from these guys that were in place around him. And now Beck is going to get a chance to utilize all of that knowledge and come to a season where, hey, he's got a schedule that's pretty favorable early on. He's going to get to build some confidence. He's going to have some home games to do it in. And then later on this year, he's going to have all this confidence and newfound experience and things like that he's going to be able to work against the back end of that schedule with for Georgia. It's really a great situation for Carson Beck. You have to commend him in a time, like I said, of instant gratification, of NIL, of people saying, hey, I can go over here and get this money, or I can go over here and get this playing time, or go push for this. But one, he wanted to win championships. He's done that at Georgia. Now it's his time to really beef up his stock. And he's a guy that, with the talent that he has and what I've seen in person, you go look at that the first scrimmage I was there watching, and my goodness, I mean, on third down periods and things of that nature, he's a guy he's athletic enough to buy time, elude a rush, and he can make throws from different platforms, different arm angles. Got a really, really strong arm. When you look at Carson Beck, outside of probably Jacob Eason, he's the most talented, naturally talented starter that Georgia has had since Matthew Stafford, in terms of the height, the weight, the arm talent, all that kind of stuff. It's all there. And he's got it. Kirby Smart has praised his football acumen tremendously. He's a guy who, like I said, this is going to be his fourth year in the system. And he's a guy that is able to really, really process information quickly and understands this offense inside and out. That's really one of the main separators, because Georgia has two other quarterbacks that are talented as well, but Carson Beck is able to handle protections, get Georgia in and out of plays, able to make adjustments when needed. And it's going to be a big, big boost for Georgia early on to have a quarterback that is able to handle all those things, especially when you've lost one like Stetson Bennett, who's having his success right now in NFL preseason. He's having a good run at it as well with the Los Angeles Rams. So, guys, I think that it's just a good story for college football in this time of, hey, I'm going to do mine. I'm going to get mine. I'm going to go and try to do what I need to do right now to do the best thing for me. Carson Beck has taken a team approach. He's taken the opportunity to learn, to get better. He's handled some adversity, and that should serve him better as the season comes on and there's opportunities to face more adversity, whether it's, a road game like that Tennessee game late in the year, things of that nature. Carson Beck will be able to draw on some experiences. The big thing for Carson Beck is the knock on him has always been body language and being able to get some leadership qualities out of him. So how does that come to fruition? Because, guys, when you're in the trenches there, when you're in the middle of a game and something goes wrong, I used to have a coach tell me, hey, something will go wrong in the course of this game. How you react to it, your swagger, if you will, is something that people will look to when you're a quarterback. I think it helps tremendously that Beck is going to be playing behind a center in Cedric Von Prawn that's one of the best to ever play at the University of Georgia. It has so much experience that I think they can draw upon each other, and Beck can kind of lean on Van Pran a little bit. That's going to be a big help a lot, having that offensive line that he has around him. But with that offensive line and with those weapons around him, don't be surprised at the end of the year if you look up and see Carson Beck in New York City as a Heisman Trophy finalist. And then next spring, he could very well be hearing his name called very early in the NFL draft if he just operates within Mike Bobo and Georgia's system, because he's going to get an opportunity to take shots. He's going to have receivers that can get open. So, guys, it is going to be very interesting to watch Carson Beck this year, but it's a story that needs to be celebrated. And like I said, in a time that it'd been easy to just pack up and leave, take his ball and go somewhere else. But Carson Beck stuck it out. He handled adversity, and now he's going to get to reap the rewards in 2023. Carson Beck, the starting quarterback for the University of Georgia. Guys, we're excited about football season coming up. We hope that if you like our content here, that you will like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We're going to be covering all things SEC, football, basketball, baseball, year-round. We have daily coverage right here. So check us out here in football season. We're going to have game-by-game predictions. We've got betting tips. We've got Jake Crane for a weekly show on Jake Take of the Daily Wire, Crane and Company. He joins us every single week. And then we have videos that come out every single day that are news analysis. We got some fun interactive stuff as well when we get live streams during the college football season. So like I said, this is the place. If you want daily SEC coverage, make sure you're part of this community with us. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I'm Blaine Gilmer for everybody at Southeastern 14. I will catch you guys next time to talk more SEC football.